Have you ever heard of a little game called Cyberpunk? Well, if you don't quite remember, here's something that may jog your memory. Cyberpunk 2077 is an open-world RPG. It was released by CD Projekt Red in 2020. Set in the breathtaking backdrop of Night City, you play as up-and-coming mercenary V on a quest to be the best merc at the afterlife. The game was released in an interesting state.
It's a city of dreams, and I'm a big dreamer.
However, Cyberpunk got a brand new lease on life in recent years, with a not-so-recent release of the Phantom Liberty DLC. I waited about 6 months after Cyberpunk's initial release to pick up the game. I played The Witcher before, so I knew CDPR would eventually turn things around. I'm glad I waited, as the game now holds a special place in my heart, and is one of my favourite games of all time. The storytelling's immense, the world design's fantastic, and sometimes I find myself just driving around the city listening to Stay at Your House on the radio. And what I wonder when I do this is, why did David have to die in the anime? You're supposed to go to the moon with Lucy, man! So, some background on V. V is a mercenary navigating the dystopian streets of Night City. Born into one of three life paths, either the Nomad, Street Kid, or Corpo, V's background shapes their experiences and connections in this neon-lit metropolis. The story really kicks off after a high-risk heist at Konpeki Plaza goes wrong, and V ends up with a biochip in their head. This contains the digital psyche of the legendary samurai guitarist Johnny Silverhand. Before getting the chip, V's objective was becoming just a somebody in Night City, to go out as a legend along with their friend Jackie. However, Johnny is very much a guerrilla fighter, or in the eyes of others, a terrorist. So I thought it would be fun to roleplay as V at the end of the world. More specifically, within Fallout New Vegas, as it's one of my other favourite games. This is to see how someone with two minds in the same body would navigate the apocalypse. So, with that being said, let's see if we can conquer the wasteland as V from Cyberpunk.
Give your meat a good old rub.
Waking up in Doc Mitchell's place, I insert the appropriate one-character name and make a very 2010 version of V. After butchering the character creation process, I wander over to the Vigor tester and assign my stats. It was a pretty even spread, with a focus in strength, charisma, and intelligence, due to the tech nature of Cyberpunk, V's loose proficiency with quick hacks, and V as a damn charming son of a gun. The stat I drained was luck. This is due to getting shot in the head in New Vegas, and also the outcome of the Konpeki heist. Sitting down on Doc Mitchell's couch, I go through all the tests and take science, guns, and speech. This is to match what I strengthened on the Vigor tester. For traits, I just took skilled, with a negative 10% XP effect, as after an early level up, I would negate that with the Swift Learner perk to get that 10% back. After leaving Doc Mitchell's house, I'm blinded by the sunrise over Good Springs, while all the DLC quests spam my screen. I head over to Chet's and sell all of the DLC gear placed in my inventory, as caps are going to be very important later on. And with my luck at 1, gambling at any of the strip casinos is not going to be viable. The only item I keep is the weathered 10mm pistol, as that's the closest replica to V's pistol I can find. Leaving Chet's butt naked, I head over to the nearby Good Springs homes and check the wardrobes for a very specific item of clothing. Well, really any item marked as merc. Luckily, in the first house I enter, I find a merc grunt outfit and quickly put it on. I'll be using merc clothes until I get a nice upgrade about the midway point through the run. I do the usual in Good Springs by shooting some of the bottles with Sunny Smiles out the back of the saloon. Of course, not using the varmint rifle, but my precious, limited 10mm rounds. Re-entering the saloon, and I see Joe Cobb of Powder Gangers fame, shaking down Trudy. Unfortunately for Joe, my inner Johnny Silverhand takes over, and I plant a bullet in the back of his skull. This starts the Ghost Town gunfight quest. Speaking with Ringo, and I front as a true merc by only caring about the caps, but ultimately agree to help with this Powder Ganger problem. I don't have the necessary stats to persuade Chet for his armor, Pete for his dynamite, or any additional meds from Doc Mitchell, but with Sonny, Trudy, and some of the locals, we take out the other Powder Gangers with relative ease. This is where I get my first level up, and offset that XP debuff I was talking about earlier, and wrap up my time in Good Springs. So next, I head on down the highway to Prim to try and track down the guy who shot me in the head. On the highway, I come across the Powder Gangers stationed by an overturned truck. Crouching down, I tighten my aim and pick the two off at the camp with one bullet each. However, I notice some rounds being plunged into my spine, so I turn around to find another two Powder Gangers approaching. 180ing from the camp, I take out the 2 gangers, however I almost get my first death when going back to the camp. The nearby truck decides to blow up, leaving me crippled and on very low health. So with a quick nap in a nearby trailer, I carry on towards Prim. Reaching Prim properly, after taking out a couple of geckos, I'm getting low on ammo, with just over 50 rounds left on my 10mm pistol. I put a few rounds to use outside of the Bison Steve, where a couple of the escaped convicts are lurking. I'm hoping in the Vicky and Vats casino that Nash will sell a few more, however, his inventory is dry. Taking on the quest to free Beagle from the Bison Steve, I enter the building with a measly 37 rounds. The convicts at the entrance don't give me much in the way of trouble, but the group with the leader in the main dining room do end up getting the best of me. Reloading at the entrance, I lured the convicts into a line through the nearby hallway and managed to take him out, leaving me with only 14 bullets. I get Beagle to spill the beans on the cons that pass through, and he tells me I need to restore law to Prim. This procs the level up, which I funnel majority of my points into guns. I do the only V solution there is and hack Prim Slim to boot up his deputy persona, leaving the fate of the town in the hands of a Protectron. Before leaving Prim, I went over to the NCR tents to see if there was any 10mm ammo laying around, finding only a precious 8 in Lieutenant Hayes' quarters. Next stop on my trip is the NCR outpost. On my way there, I get into a fight with the nearby jackals at the Nevada Highway Patrol Station. To my delight, both are wielding 10mm pistols. Less to my delight, they promptly plant my ass in the dirt, meaning I had to reload back at Prim. Reaching the patrol station again, in a very annoying turn of events, they've now switched over to cowboy repeaters, in which I do survive the encounter. This is good for my caps, bad for my survival. With 6 bullets left, I avoid the rad scorpions at the nearby gas station and head straight up to the Mojave outpost. This is to speak with Lacey, praying she's carrying some more 10mm rounds. However, with a luck stat of 1, I shouldn't be surprised that she has a whopping 0 rounds for sale. I had to do something about this. I had at this point been hoarding 20 gauge rounds for the second weapon I wanted to use for V in this run, which is the combat shotgun. You'll see why this is a problem shortly. I enter the main admin building and speak with Ranger Jackson to pick up the Ant Killer quest, then speak to Ranger Ghost to investigate Nipton. However, with the ammo I have and what I want to do in Nipton, this won't be possible, so it's time to obtain my backup weapon. Fast travelling back to Good Springs and reaching the Yangtze Memorial, I proc another level up, which I assign my skill points into science. I then take the Educated perk to get more skill points every time I level up. Heading down past Sloan, making a quick stop into the foreman's office to steal all their hard-earned caps, I then go past Hidden Valley, marking it on the map for later, and up to Neil's shack. I then head east through the Nurbit patented Black Mountain shortcut to get into New Vegas. The super mutants did spot me on the way past, but as I was hugging the rocks, I think it messed with their pathing and they ended up actually running away from me. Reaching the outskirts of New Vegas, my first stop is the Gunrunners. To my delight, they sell a whopping 144 10mm rounds, which I snap up quicker than a drunk British man eats a doner kebab.
That's going to strain my basket.
Continuing on, I mark a few more locations on the map for quick fast travel access, such as Crimson Caravans, New Vegas Medical Clinic, the latter being very important to the run. My ultimate destination for this jaunt to New Vegas is the Horowitz Farmstead in the far northwest corner of the map. Just chilling in the back of a busted down pickup truck is my beacon of hope in this current pistol only run. That would be the hunting shotgun. After dealing with a few Vipers loitering in the area, I take my prize and check its condition, which is, well, not good. Which brings me to the other not good part. So, as I mentioned earlier, I'd been saving up a lot of 20 gauge rounds in prep for getting this. However, I'm actually about 8 gauges, if that's how you measure bullets, too big. So realising my mistake, I do another trip to the Gunrunners, trade out the fat shells for the slightly less fat shells, and head back to the Mojave outpost. This is to speak to Major Knight about repairing the shotgun. Speaking with the Major, I check the cost of the repairs, and it turns out it's currently more than my character's net worth, so I end up using the little weapon repair kits I have to ensure the 40 shotgun shells actually output a decent amount of damage. I don't test the shotgun out straight away, and instead opt to use my 10mm pistol to finish off the ants parading around the highway. Rather than heading straight back to Ranger Jackson, I press forward to Nipton and come face to face with the Legion for the first time. Volpes gives me his usual speech of, "Tell people what you saw here," but unfortunately for him, my inner Johnny Silverhand with a new boomstick comes out and decides to paint the Nipton concrete with his brain matter. Well, I say that, but VATS plus this shotgun seems to be pretty broken, and not in a good, overpowered way. As you can see, I died due to good old New Vegas jank. Reloading and kiting the Legion around the nearby houses, however, I managed to get the job done. After handing in the quests back at the Mojave outpost, I take the usual Nipton Highway route up towards Novak, the town known for having a big dinosaur and not a lot else. Upon reaching the town, I head into the motel office, where I get info that Manny Vargas, one of the town guards, knows where the Khans went. Instead of talking to him, I decide to just hop on his PC and use V's amazing quick hacks, I mean the PC was just sat there unlocked, to obtain the Khans' whereabouts, which happens to be just up the road in Boulder City. Aside from that, I help Boone by finding out the lovely receptionist sold his wife into slavery. So I briefly don his ranger beret, and Boone, sat in the mouth of the dinosaur, gives Jeannie a good helping of bullet to the brain soup. Before leaving Novak good and proper, I head into the base of the dinosaur where a gentleman called Cliff Briscoe is running his general store. Rather than paying for any goods and services, I open the very easy lock to his storeroom and obtain another weapon for the run, that gun. The reason I took this is because the gun looks as close as I can imagine to the Archangel revolver, the one that Kerry Eurodyne gives you after playing the concert with him during Johnny's questline. I'll tell you now, I used this for all of one encounter. I realised the damage was terrible and I swiftly sold it later in the run. Reaching Boulder City, I speak with Lieutenant Monroe, one of the NCR posted outside the ruins, and he lets me know the Khans are hiding out inside with NCR hostages. And I tell him, no worries mate, I can talk them down. However, when I reach the Khans held inside the building, Johnny comes to the forefront and decides revenge is a dish best served now. Seeing as I decided to plug Jessup with 10mm rounds before finding out where their leader went, I had to loot his corpse and get his convenient diary entry on where to head next. I also take his bandana as a reward along with another level up. Leaving Jessup's hidey hole and the nearby Khans swiftly drop me with their barrage of submachine gun fire. After reloading and with seemingly no NCR backup, I lead them up the stairs and conveniently funnel them into a choke point.
Oh, behave. Yeah.
This is where I take them out one or two at a time. Then I release the NCR hostages and make my way back to Freeside. My first stop here is Mick and Ralph's. This is to secure my entrance to the strip. I managed to sweet talk him into selling me a fake passport for 500 caps. This procs another level up, which at this point takes me to level 8, and I get a second rank in the toughness perk. Going into a nearby alley, I'm beckoned over by one of the locals to look at his friend behind a dumpster.
Between the dumpsters there. What's your rush? The boys and I here want to get to know you better.
Heading further into Freeside, and I wanted to start one of the secondary objectives of the run. Seeing as V wants to be the top merc in Night City, Fallout V wants to be the top merc in New Vegas, so all of the Freeside quests need to be completed. This includes a couple of quests for the Atomic Wranglers casino owners, the Garretts. Some basic stuff to begin with, debt collection goes off without a hitch. Then I'm tasked with recruiting niche sex workers for some of their clientele. The most intriguing is Fisto the Robot, in which, well, I'm not going to send him back without a test run.
Servos active. Operation.
Next, I decide to head over to the home of all things Pew Pew in the firearms department, the Van Graffs over at the Silver Rush. I started this quest chain by being a doorman, and seeing as Johnny Silverhand loves a good bomb, door knocker number 4 gets free entry into the establishment.
Didn't you hear that part of my instructions?
Simon isn't too happy about losing his job, so I finish off the last Van Graff and claim my armour upgrade of the run, the Van Graff combat armour. I look at this the same way V gets the samurai jacket halfway through Cyberpunk's main quests. Next up is the King's quest line. Not too much detail to go into here. The Elvis impersonators on the strip seem to run things and have some quibbles with the NCR. So it's some back and forth with lots of dialogue and fast travel to unravel the trouble Pacer, his second in command, is causing. The only exciting bit was yet another Johnny bombing spree by dropping a live grenade into a bodyguard's underwear.
Holy shit!
The last mission in Freeside is getting a couple of junkies to come clean and setting up the local doctors, hiding out in an old fort, with a steady supply line to make their medicine. So, leveraging my relationship with the Garretts, I set this up and used my mercenary charisma to persuade 2 chem addicts to get clean. And with that, I'm finally the king of Freeside. With my newfound caps, I can now kick off the other, tertiary objective of the run, implants. Like any good member of Night City, I need to augment my body to the point I'm more tech than human. So, I stop off at the New Vegas Medical Clinic and buy the subdermal armor to give me more damage resistance. This is to set me up for my trip onto the Strip. Taking my first steps onto the Strip, and I make my way straight to the Lucky 38 to meet with my fixer, Mr. House. He immediately puts me to work in obtaining the platinum chip I lost when I got shot in the head back in Good Springs. So I make my way over and head to the tops to reclaim it. Speaking with Swank at reception, I explain Benny, the leader of the guys who failed to kill me, is a pretty naughty boy.
You're teasing me, you naughty.
He gives me the key to Benny's suite within the casino, so I can take a look around for any more proof of his wrongdoings. Before I head up, I go and speak with the man himself, and simply ask him, nicely of course, to hand the chip over. Gotta give him a chance and all that. He refuses to meet me in private, and asks me to head up to a VIP suite and wait for him there. Sensing this very obvious trap, I don't give him an answer, and instead, I head up to his suite, in which his little robot cohort is waiting for me. Yes Man gives me the scoop on Benny's wrongdoings, so I head back down to the casino floor to confront him again. Without the speech checks to have him meet me in the room, I head up alone for the obvious ambush. Addressing me through an intercom, he informs me he's sending up a hit squad to take care of me. I manage to convince him to call off his attack dogs, and he kindly lets me live and vacates the Strip for good. Leaving the tops, and a spokesperson for the Legion approaches me. He lets me know Benny has fled to the Legion's camp. So I leave the Strip and head off to Cottonwood Cove to finally get hold of the platinum chip. Heading to Caesar's camp, I speak to the man directly. He hands over the platinum chip from Benny, who tried to sneak through his camp. Caesar requests I head to a station below the camp to blow up whatever House has stored down there. However, being loyal to my fixer, I instead power down the patrolling sentry bots, take out the remaining turrets, and use the platinum chip to upgrade his robot army. Reporting back to Caesar, I inform him I've done his bidding, and he lets me deal with Benny however I choose.
Oh, behave.
Giving Benny a chance for playing a good game so far, and with a personal taste of revenge on Johnny's tongue, I decide to take him out in one-on-one arena combat. Returning to the Strip, I hand over the platinum chip to Mr. House, and he gives me the usual demonstration of what the upgrades have actually done to his robo-soldiers. He then tasks me with addressing the rest of the factions present in the Wasteland, first up being the explosive-obsessed boomers. I just about make it through the bombardment, with most of my limbs crippled and quite literally 1 health remaining. Getting the boomers on side is quite easy. At this point I'd put quite a few points into the medicine skill, so with the help of a magazine, I managed to heal all the patients. I then listen to a child tell me about the boomers' history, and then proceed to take care of some ants dwelling in their generator room. This gives me enough happy points to proceed with the final quest in cementing the boomers as my allies. The quest is fairly simple. I have to swim to the bottom of a lake and attach some ballasts to a downed bomber, and raise it to the surface. One of the boomers gives me the equipment and a rebreather to make this task slightly less painful. Teleporting just outside the boomer's base, I head southeast to approach Lake Mead from the top end. However, my luck stat of 1 comes fully on display when a Deathclaw spawns and swiftly ends my existence. Taking the smarter and shorter approach from Boulder City, I swim under the lake, attach the ballasts, detonate the detonator, which raises the nearly intact bomber to the surface. I then head back to Pearl, reporting my success and secure the alliance of the boomers. Next on the list of tribes to sway over to my side is the Emerters, who conveniently run the casino opposite Mr. House's tower. At this point, Johnny is growing tired of playing post-apocalypse politics, and V needs more caps for implants. Ultimately, the Emerters don't need to exist in the new Strip we're trying to create, and well, the negotiations go a little something like this. The casino culling actually works in my favour, as I end up with a nice upgrade to my arsenal. One of the Emerters is carrying a riot shotgun, which I pick up to replace my current hunting one. Before heading back to Mr. House, I make my way over to the Gunrunners and sell off all of the loot I gathered in Gamora. With just over 20,000 caps in my inventory, I go back to the New Vegas Medical Clinic and buy the most expensive regen implant. along with any of the other booster implants relating to my tag skills, capping out the available implants I can have installed. This completes the secondary objective of successfully borging out. Returning to Mr. House, and he isn't pleased with how I dealt with the Omertas, potentially due to the obscene amount of enhancements to my body, but V begins to see red and activates the nearby terminal to access the underground facility where Mr. House's IRL body lays waiting. Inside the control room, I release Mr. House from his pod and give him one final conversation and tell him I'm gonna end him, just because I don't like him, and send him to the afterlife, haha, with a 12 gauge slug right in his midsection. Now it's time for V and Johnny to take over the strip together. Heading back over to the tops, I link up with Yes Man and allow him to transfer his cyber consciousness into Mr. House's, now dormant, systems. He gives me the full list of the remaining tribes I need to speak with, so I depart the casino to continue gaining allies, for my own gain this time. Next stop is Hidden Valley. This is to deal with the Brotherhood of Steel. With a truly free strip, and to keep NCR customers happy, thanks for the tip Mr. House, I need the Brotherhood gone. I gain their trust by sending the squatting NCR ranger on his way, by telling him the powder gangers patrol the area. Even with my new riot shotgun and my nice set of Van Graff armor, I'm not really in a position to tank energy damage shots from the Brotherhood's Gauss rifles. Plus, if the events at Arasaka Tower is anything to look at, Johnny loves a good explosion. I pickpocket the relevant keycards from the heads of each department in the Brotherhood, and head down into the bowels of the bunker to initiate the self-destruct sequence. Immediately, all the Brotherhood members in the area turn hostile. Taking out the lightly armoured scribes is no big deal. However, there is some trouble from the power armour wearing knights, but not enough to overwhelm me. Upstairs on the next floor is a different story though. Trying to just run through to the exit, I get swiftly dropped by the feared Gauss rifle shots. However, dipping into my bag of chems, second time around, I drop some turbo to slow down time and serpentine my way back out into the desert. This ends the Brotherhood, and now it's time to deal with the local cannibals.
Give your meat a good old rub.
Yeah, boy.
With the white gloves, I follow the usual quest line of rescuing the rancher's son, who is the special dinner for tonight's course. Mortimer, a receptionist, is the spearhead of the little sect looking to bring back Long Pig as a menu item to the White Gloves Casino, in which I pretend to be one too. This is to get him to tell me where the rancher's son is. He is located down in the kitchens, so after passing a few simple speech checks, I find him and escort him back to his father in the main lobby. I then report Mortimer as the main culprit of the cannibalism, and I fix the issue, ticking White Gloves off the list. The last of the factions to sweet talk is the Khans. I enter Red Rock, and my initial thought was to wipe them off the face of the earth. This is seeing as their clansmen failed to kill me at the start of the game, but I gave the rest of the clan the benefit of the doubt. Firstly, I out the Legion rep, Carl, who is hanging around the main longhouse. I do this by stealing his diary, which he stupidly has written down all the bad things about the Khans and how they're pretty much useless, and I show this to Papa Khan, the leader of the group. Carl is then chased from the longhouse, and I help in putting him down for good. Even with this, Papa Khan still isn't interested in siding with me. However, when I go to leave Red Rock, Regis, his second in command, tells me if I can get some key players in the Khan camp on side, they will cut ties with the Legion. Jack and Diane are easy enough to persuade, as I just tell Jack that Diane will be sold into slavery if they side with the Legion. I then meet up with Melissa in Quarry Junction and tell her women won't be accepted in Caesar's army as she wants to be a legate, so she agrees to cut ties with them too. Returning to Papa Khan, he says his advisors have told him they want out of the Legion. Unfortunately, they won't side with me, so I just tell him to take his tribe and leave the Mojave for good. So, with all the factions ticked off, V chocked full of implants, and I'm now the hero of Freeside, it's now time to kick off the finale. First of all, I have to save the NCR president from being assassinated by the Legion. This is while he gives a speech at the Hoover Dam. This is easy enough. First, I pickpocket a detonator from one of the Legion disguised as an NCR mechanic who planted a bomb on the president's vertibird. From there, I take out the Legion sniper in the nearby watchtower. Unfortunately, I couldn't save the NCR guard. I then inform the nearby ranger of the assassination attempt, who then calls off the speech, leading to the president flying off to safety. With the president secure, it's time to kick off the final battle at Hoover Dam. The first part of the dam goes off without too many issues. I'm accompanied by a couple of rangers and securitrons. We make quick work of the Centurions leading Caesar's charge. Halfway across the dam, my work with the boomers earlier in the run pays off as they drop the bombs on the approaching Legion soldiers. Heading into the guts of the dam, I run into some slight problems with the NCR troopers stationed outside of the control room with power armor. I am just short on a speech check to get through the doors without entering open conflict, and at this stage I really didn't want to have to waste my very limited shotgun rounds. After scrolling through my inventory for any drugs or magazines to up my speech, I was left with only one option: to use a random stealth boy I hadn't sold yet. I used it, sneaking past the soldiers into the main room behind them, and uploaded Yes Man onto the computer systems. This probably worked out for the best, as I can imagine it being something Netrunner EV would do. With my stealth boy still equipped, I use it to my full advantage and just run past all the remaining troops atop the dam to reach the Legate's camp. The Praetorian guards here are easy enough to deal with, as they all have to close the distance to make use of their ballistic fists. After taking him out, it just leaves me one-on-one with the Legate. I managed to pass all the required speech checks, aside from the final one, to get him to retreat without combat. However, come on, this is my V Adam Smasher moment. I do, however, convince him to fight me one-on-one. This had to be the most balked fight I've ever had with a Legate. I opened the fight by just going buck wild with my riot shotgun, taking the Legate down to about half health. He charges me and swings his sword in retaliation. He manages to cripple my head in the first couple of swings, stun-locking me into oblivion. I don't know what caused it, but the Legate stopped being hostile and retreated into a random corner. After a while, he runs back up to where we started the fight. Realising he was supposed to actually be in combat with me, he runs back down the hill and, no joke, Skyrim giant launches me into the sky. Reloading after this very unfortunate death, I open the fight in the same way by just blasting him with the riot shotgun. This time around I kite the Legate around the surrounding geometry, and I win the fight with a combined mixture of Psycho, Med-X, Turbo and Dragon's Breath rounds. Taking the Legate's mask as a trophy, I turn around to leave the dam. General Oliver of the NCR shows up to congratulate me on my victory. I kindly ask Oliver and the NCR to leave the dam, which goes fairly well. And with that, we close out the game. So yeah, I guess you kinda can conquer Fallout New Vegas as V, with a hint of Johnny Silverhand. This run was super fun to do. It was my first attempt at a character related run, and I can think of no one better to do it as than the protagonist of one of my favourite games. Let me know if you enjoyed it by leaving a like and subscribing. Also let me know in the comments if I should do the DLC as V or any other runs you might have in mind. Thanks to everyone who stuck around to the end. I'll be streaming Cyberpunk over on my Twitch soon, which is linked in my channel, so hope to see some of you there. That's all for now. I'll see you in the next one.